up at night. And as Mark Twain once said, I have seen many troubles in my time, only half of which ever came true. So, we live now in such uncertain times. We have growing children, we have aging parents, we have a world economy that seems to impact all of us. We have graying hair, lots of things to think about and wonder about. Our lives are ever changing. And then with that, our priorities change. Certainly for those of us who have been around a while, we see that as just life events happen and how priorities have to change. We also know that concerns about our personal lives are often intertwined with our financial responsibilities. And it's often hard to know where to start and how to prioritize. So in talking about the series, the Life Happens series, we thought September would be a good month to kick off the What Keeps You Up at Night, to begin to look at some things that have a peace of mind factor. You know, certainly with the start of school and here at the university, and as well as for your children and grandchildren outside, it's also a beginning, new things, new clothes, new tools. So today we're going to cover three things. We're going to look at just some common issues that keep us all up at night. And recognizing what we can control and acknowledging what we can't control. And also just how a simple checklist, and has everyone received that, the little checklist is just a simple checklist, but how something like that can really be a powerful way to help you assess what your concerns are and to identify some priorities and resources that can help you. So there's, this is actually a piece on Social Security called the Baby Boomers Guide, but it has a great quote from Bob Dylan, so I wanted to start us off from some lyrics. It says, "May you grow up to be righteous, may you grow up to be true, may you always know the truth and see the light surrounding you, may you always be courageous, stand upright and be strong, and may you stay forever young." Now that's challenging, isn't it? To may you always know the truth and see the light surrounding you. And what does that mean? So what are some of those common issues as we're looking around and trying to look for this truth there? Well, certainly with personal issues, some things, if you might be moving on as a single person, having faced divorce, perhaps widowhood. You may be working on settling the estate of a loved one while you're still grieving. You may be having to make decisions about living arrangements for an aging parent, or having help coming into the home and figuring out if they're the right fit and for what you need. With children, you may be thinking about paying for their education. Certainly here at the university, there are wonderful benefits to assist with that, but there are responsibilities beyond what those wonderful benefits can cover. You may have adult children who are struggling to find a job, and your role in advising them, perhaps they went to college, perhaps they returned home, you're trying to figure out how to balance helping them become independent while they're finding their way. We may have health issues, you know, knees, hips, back, or weight, cholesterol issues, and certainly financial issues. You know, are taxes going up? When are taxes going up? How do we deal with the volatility that we're seeing in the stock market investing? Is Social Security going to be around for us? I think it will. I think it'll be modified in some way. Will I ever be able to retire? We hear that a lot. So we have fears, we have worries. Stress is strange. You know, how do any of us get through the day with all these things on top of our shoulders? One thing I've heard is that there are only two things we need to worry about. One is that things will never get back to normal, but secondly is that they already have. So are we in the new normal? Is this the new normal that we're dealing with? You know, who can remember what they were worried about 1 year ago? Can you reflect back and think, 1 year ago, what was on the top of my mind? Anybody wanting to share or to How about 10 years ago? You know, we certainly have had the anniversary anniversary of 9/11 that just occurred. And that is something that, what we find is that often when you reflect back, you may think of some specific personal types of things, but as you look back over time, you often think about things that really you have no control over, things that have happened in our world, different world events, things that have tested our economy over time. And I'm going to show you, this is a piece that, we actually have extras if any of you are interested in that in our office. They went back and looked at Time magazines and did headlines from all these different magazines over the past few decades. And I'll read you one here. There's one, it's a picture of Uncle Sam. It's from March of 1972, right before I graduated from Lexington High School. And there was a Lexington High School. Can a nation with a trillion-dollar economy be running out of money? Not running out of money. September of '74, prior to a recessionary time. The stock market has scarcely been so shaky since 1929. Just about everybody who buys, sells, borrows, or invests has that overall feeling of unease. Advancing forward to December of '84, awash in troubles, bankers now face their most strenuous survival test since the Great Depression. Leading on here, here's one of them. The Great American Job. This is November of '93. All sorts of people who never thought they would be on the jobless lines are looking for jobs and not finding them. And here's a picture here of a granny who will ever be able to retire from July of '02. Americans are more worried about their financial future than at any other time since the turbulent '70s. And lastly, there's a picture. It's called Surviving the Lean Economy. And this was from May of '08, but it could be even now. It says, but Americans have a new menu of economic woes. Among them a real estate crash, a credit crisis, a broken healthcare system, and nagging job insecurity. Any of those sound familiar? And are they things that we can control or not control? I don't think any of us can really control things. We can vote and write to people and express our views, but the bottom line is that there's so many things that we can't control. So let's think about what are some of the things that we can control. And you will almost have had some reason that motivated you other than getting out of the office to come today. And I'll give any particular thing that worries you or kind of goes over in your mind. Is it list making or is it bigger issues? What sorts of things?
The insurance mess.
Right.
No, I think a lot of us feel that we're working a lot longer than we thought we were 5-10 years ago.
Retirement because of not knowing about Medicare or?
Yeah, just the fact that you're afraid to retire. If you don't have insurance, you can lose everything you have.
So health insurance retirement. Others? Yes,
An elderly parent, kind of not being there to be able to help and wondering how it's all going to work out.
being removed, not being able to be there. How about for some who are younger? Anything in particular that?
Just kidding. Mine through college.
Right, which is a huge step. Both of those are huge steps. And before you know it, the college will be what you'll be thinking of. So what does that mean? So my question for you is, why should we worry about things that we can't control? When we certainly can keep ourselves very busy by controlling the things that depend on us along the way. And certainly I'm not saying to ignore what's going on around us, but keeping it in perspective. You know, we can be far more effective if we focus on how we respond, setting goals, setting plans to deal with that. So where do we begin? And not to make it too simplistic, but it really is just a matter of first identifying what are those concerns, just as you've shared already. And what are the resources that are available? How do I prioritize? How do I plan? So you have the checklist there, which talks about a lot of the things like retirement and education, elderly care kinds of issues. Now, you can go down and check all of them off if you want, but that's just meant to kind of give you an idea about some common things that others are concerned about, and to know that there are things there. Before I went into financial services and decided to become a financial advisor, I worked at the Children's Hospital in Richmond for 28 years. And one of the physicians there, who was very wise, in meeting with families who had a child who was newly diagnosed with some life-impacting disabilities, such as Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, and the parents, of course, were overwhelmed. And he would put it in perspective to them by saying, you can't look at the sun all the time. You can't, the sun, if you are looking at the sun all the time and you're overwhelmed with just that big issue, you can't do that because it does nothing but impede you from moving on. And the same is true of us. We all have different issues that are going on in our personal lives, in our family lives, in our professional lives, and trying to juggle it all, trying to do more with less. But if you look at it all the time, then and you need to develop some perfect plan, then that impedes you from moving on. So the checklist is there just to give you an idea of what are some of the things to be thinking about. And let's kind of break it down. I thought this isn't on the checklist, but I thought I would say just from a mental health perspective, and this is something, I'm right there, it's like, you have control over what you choose to eat each day, how you choose to exercise, whether you get on one of those treadmills like Catherine's back there, TV to do that and during the day. But you also have control over how many times a day do you smile, how many times a day do you say thank you, how many times do you say I love you to your family, how many times do you appreciate a small act of kindness given to you, or how often do you present that. Again, just kind of starting at things that really can help you just from an overall health and mental health perspective to feel better. I'm going into things I call more of a peace of mind, risk management, because this is an area where we often see people procrastinating, and we'll have other speakers who will be more specific on estate planning types of topics. But it's true that most Americans do not have a will, the majority, and things that are important to estate planning, like a will, a trust, a financial power of attorney, an advance medical directive. And that's something that often gets set aside. It's something that can seem an overwhelming thing to do. How do I begin to plan for that? What resources? It's going to be costly. I don't think I'm going to die anyway. And so we live in this stage. And so that is something that I hear back from many. That is something that oftentimes gets set aside. And with insurance, talking about Medicare, but also looking at things like you have great benefits here: health, dental, disability. There's long-term care options there for you, life insurance. But we'll see people coming to the office who are W&L faculty and staff, and we'll sit down and just first want to do an overview of their resources, assets, as such. And I have to say, about 9 times out of 10, they know they have some kind of coverage, but they're really not sure what it is. And so they often end up, we send them back to Human Resources, which is certainly always there to help to understand what your benefits are. You get a sheet of paper, but you may or may not look at that. So my challenge to you, even with looking at some of these peace of mind, or with the risk management types of things, is really just feel familiar, get comfortable, know it. this is what I have, or at least have it written so you can access it and that your loved ones are informed about where to get that information in the event that something happened to you and you couldn't speak for yourself. And going back to that, one of the things that can make us avoid some of the estate planning, because one of the first things the attorney will want to know are your financial resources. That's what they're going to ask you, because that will determine what kind of a plan they set up and how it's organized and structured. And so often having those financial documents in order is something that can be put aside, can keep you up at night. It's like, okay, I know I need to do this, but I have other priorities, things going on. So it's a matter of breaking it down into smaller pieces. We'll even see with life insurance that people will oftentimes with things like annuities or life insurance policies, you may have your original contract, and then you'll get an annual statement, and we'll write what's called an in-force illustration, but you have to find that. And so oftentimes it's like, I know I have something, I'm not really sure, I think it's for this. And so it's, I guess my sharing that with you is just to let you know, it's really not unusual to really not know what you have until you sit down and begin to look at that and organize that. There's lots of online resources to help with things just like household budgeting and cash flow and setting emergency savings and looking at, what am I spending? I don't know if any of you will ever watch, there's a very practical advisor named Gail Vaz Oxlade. Have any of you ever watched her on which is on Saturday nights on CNBC? You all probably doing something better on Saturday nights than watching CNBC. And she may come on other times, I know, but she does, she had a series that was called Till Death Do Us Part. And it's where she would go to couples and where and it's typically couples who have their spending's out of control, they have no idea where the money's going. There's typically, one who's a saver, one who's a spender, pretty untypical. And so she sits down with them and she has some great information on her website just about how to get control of that, how to know where you are. Because often that's what is worrying us, is because we really don't know where we stand. We don't know what we have. We're fearful that it's not enough, so we don't look at it and we avoid, and then it just perpetuates itself. Certainly dealing with investments, knowing, am I diversified? And how do you break that down? And you have wonderful resources that come here from Ted Craft and other places, Fidelity now, and they can sit and talk with you. But often we'll hear back things like, I know I need to be diversified, but I don't even know where to begin. I don't understand asset classes. And in financial services, we can use a lot of terms that make things sound, big. And it's really something easy to break down. Or understanding, how do bonds really work? And what does it mean to have a portion of real estate? What does that mean to me? And what's the difference between growth and value, and large cap and mid cap, and all those things? And it just can begin to swim in your head. And so the point being, there's lots of information that's available to you and lots of resources that can help you through that process. One of the most important things too is just looking at beneficiaries being up to date. And any kind of a retirement plan or insurance or annuity type of policy will have beneficiaries. And that's something important, especially as we get older and we look back, our lives certainly may have changed. And so it's important to annually go back and review and make sure that's in place and that's structured how you want it to be. So get your information, make informed decisions, know the questions to ask, and you can see there's lots of things online, but there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of fearful things that are out there online. So be careful with that. Deal with someone that you can trust or resources. Understand just beginning with what you have and then moving on from there. So I heard a funny thing that they were saying, about knowing what your rights are. And certainly sometimes it's hard to know. It's hard to know what are the right questions to ask, where to begin in that way. So it said, sometimes I feel like you just have to march right in and demand your rights, even if you don't know what your rights are or who the person is that you're talking to. and then on the way out just slam the door. And I'm sure we all have had that with some kind of consumer issue or concern that we've had that you just feel like, I just want to, slam the door. So, no doubt these are challenging times for us. We're resilient. You're resilient. You have resources that are there, but there just are not enough hours of the day. So, in your workplace, I would say you're here, the university has hired you, you're accountable to your job and to doing a good job and doing that. You have deadlines that have to be met. So the challenge is to be accountable in your personal life and to be able to perhaps give yourself some deadlines. If there are certain things that you want to look at and resources to know about, just to break that down and to give yourself some challenges. Okay, Bob, this time I'll have this, and this time I'll have this, and this time I'll have that. And again, that sounds simplistic, but really doing that and following through is something to be said. There was an article I read about 9/11. Certainly after that, so many people were facing reality that just look how quickly their lives can change. Not only our country, but the people whose families were impacted. And so there was kind of a rush of awareness to begin to work. And then, time moves on and things change and settle back. And so there really hasn't been quite the, awareness that people were hoping would continue to build and grow with that. So the challenge is to take what keeps you up at night and not just identify what keeps you up at night, but to also say, and what I'm doing about it is ABC, to break it down in those ways. So changing your anxiety into action, worry into productivity, it's a one step at a time type of thing. So instead of what keeps you up at night, maybe thinking about what gets you up in the morning, what motivates you, what gives you strength to feel empowered, and moving on in that direction. So that's really what I have to say. I hope, again, it's not a rocket science, if you will, type of thing, but it is something that I think is very important. If anybody has questions or particular things that have worked for them to set goals or develop plans that help them to achieve those kinds of things, to get some control. What types of things have worked? Yoga. And how does yoga help? And does it make you feel more energetic to relax and feel that peace of mind? And she's very serene in her life. How about others? What kinds of things have helped? To relieve some of the stress. Because you find you are challenged with doing more with less if you were A new hobby? Now, what's your new hobby?
Knitting.
Oh, knitting. How about with keeping financial documents organized? Is that a challenge to anyone? Okay.
My husband does that.
Oh! How about for those who find it? What is challenging about that?
Just keeping up with things. It gets constant pile and it gets filled.
Right.
Have to do it in tax time, so
You just, right, to sit down with that. How about others? What keeps you from, what makes it overwhelming? It comes to
Financial documents. My mother passed away a few years ago, and she was getting really sick. She made binders for herself, for me, for my brother, for my dad, and every financial document, birth certificates, everything you could think of. And
Wow.
so when I get things, I just put it in the section, and it's okay, but it's been actually, it's really nice.
what a role model.
And that's a good idea. It was. I mean, it's just one section for this. I get in the bill and I stick it in the folder and I don't think that. Because then everyone knows what it is. Yeah, it's easy to find.
Right? And for your child, you know, the social security card and birth certificate and all that, that you know where that is. And there are tools that can help you to do that. And what often happens if you don't have a system already set up is it just can pile up and pile up and pile up, and then you don't know where things are. And so oftentimes when you need something and you're under a time constraint is when you're trying to find that passport or that birth certificate, and to figure out a system that works for you. Do any of others have any help with that, with organizing things or figuring out what to do, will, estate planning?
I think one thing I used to try to do was organize everything into this particular slot. And one thing that helped me was to kind of just, I did a January through December, like file folders, and dropped everything for the month into the folder. And so you could, sometimes you could say, oh, I kind of remember that happening in the spring, that might have been April. You know,
Right.
you go back to that month or anything. But not have, I think I got bogged down by trying to put it all in car insurance and home insurance and, you know, all the little slots. But by doing it monthly instead of so specific, it helped me at least be more organized and be able to find something.
And that works
So
for
it's
you.
kind of less is more. I was trying to do too much and it overwhelmed me and I didn't do it all, and so I had a big mess. And find things online too.
Because we want it to be perfect, right?
I wanted it to be perfect. And so I just did a little bit less and it's become more organized that way.
Good for you. That's great. I have to share, we just recently, we moved here, but we still have our house in Richmond, so we've kind of had 2 addresses. And I learned that changing your address with the Postal Service, they notify people. Like, we still have money with I go with the Virginia prepaid tuition plan, and so they're like, we've been notified by the Postal Service that you moved. And so that's been kind of an eye-opening. But with our car, I got to just change, because we just had to re-register a car in August. And so on the DMV, Barbara, in fact, I even asked Barbara, I said, well, it says, when did your address change? I was like, well, I don't really know. And so I just put January 1st. Well, so now I got from Roberts County a delinquent tax bill for personal property taxes that I paid in Henrico County in June. And that bill, I need to call them. That just came. So, but it's one of those. But I was glad because I keep a monthly, just kind of an expenses journal, and then do an online spreadsheet with that. So, and I file things by like taxes and separately. It seems to work well. So I was able to pull out, do have documentation that I can pick up.
Now, important things like taxes, it has its own file.
Right.
So anything that might help in there, just.
And there are lots of resources at different, office equipment supply companies and online types of things. If that's something that's a struggle to begin to organize, there are lots of things that are out there that can help you. And the thing, like you're just saying, is to know what's the right fit for me, what works. Anyone else have? What about other kinds of things that keep you up at night?
I also, she was talking about the bills and things, I also put on the statement when I send a bill in.
Right.
I also put the check number and the date that I mail it, or the date that I did the check or something.
Right.
So if I go back and I can't remember if I did send this in.
Right, so you know exactly how it runs. Especially banks don't typically send you back check. It used to be they would send you the checks, and so many people do online banking now. Keep track of it that way. How about others? Any other? Julie, yes, ma'am.
I find that, I think it's sort of the nature of my work, that I end up in meetings almost all day, and then the work piles up, the emails pile up, and it stresses me out when I don't know what's in my email and what's on my desk. And so for me to just make sure that I take some time at the end of the workday or the beginning of the workday to get myself organized, get things in the right piles,
Right.
so that it's not just a mess on my desk, just makes me feel like I'm in control, even if I'm really not. So I think it's the being disorganized at work and feeling disorganized at work that is a stressor for me. I don't know if other people find that too.
You can share, it's okay, even though she's the head of HR. It's okay. This year. And that's, I have the same thing. I'll have things in folders, and I'm guilty of, I'll take things home at night to work, but I always take too much. It's like there are only so many hours, and you do need to have some downtime too. And so then it can be, all right, trying to figure out what's the thing. And oftentimes if you just can go on and get one thing done and do it well and then move on, that's a big sense of accomplishment. So how many of you think you can begin to prioritize and think about, all right, this is what I need more. And actually on the checklist it has where if you want to just check off if it's something you want more info, or you can send me an email. Each of those topics have individual information sheets about them. And like this thing, the Baby Boomers Guide to Social Security is a great resource just learning about. And I think, I don't know, are we doing social? I can't remember if we were doing Social Security.
We're going to try to schedule.
Okay. So just understanding that, and there's lots of ins and outs. It's not just a matter of figuring out, 62. You can look at spouses. There's lots of kind of tricks in the trade of Social Security to look at how to maximize what your benefits might be. So, yes, ma'am.
Hey, one thing that John and I have really gained some mental health from is instead of at the end of the day thinking all these things you didn't get done, all those folk you didn't get this, but to say, okay, I did this and this and this, to focus on what you did do is a real relief. Of course, it still leaves those things you didn't do, but you have focused on what you did do, so it's a positive reaction rather.
And I've learned in asking Barbara to do things, she really likes to have it done by the end of the day. Like, she would work until midnight to do. So I've learned, and those of you who, are giving tasks to other people to do, is to break down things into manageable areas too, to not necessarily make that person feel like, how can I ever accomplish that? And maybe the truth would be the opposite truthful in somebody who's giving you things to do, is trying to get them to help to prioritize, because again, there's only X number of hours in the day. So I hope you have some inspiration there to go back and to begin to look. Let me know if you need any specific information about other resources or